Let me ask you a question. Imagine for a moment that you were the last person on Earth. For some reason, everyone else in the world that you know has vanished and you were the only person left in the entire world. Would you still feel like a failure? It's an interesting question. It's one I've been proposing to myself recently as I've been thinking about this topic of why we feel like a failure in our life. And in this video today, I want to do a deep dive on the psychology of failure, why we feel like a failure, and how you can stop that emotion and that feeling and labeling yourself as a failure in your life. You know, failure is a very interesting topic. It's not something that we really talk about with our friends or our family most of the time. If people say, "How are you doing?" or "How's life?" or whatever, you tend to say, "It's good, things are going well." You tell them all the things that are happening for you. You don't tend to dwell on your failures or tell them how bad your life is going most of the time. Why is that? Because it is a taboo topic. It's something that's kind of uncomfortable to admit, right? We don't want to say to people that I'm a failure or I have failed in some part of my life. What I have learned in my 40 plus years on this earth is that we are the ones who choose to label ourselves as a failure. Most of the time, it is us who is saying it to ourselves. It's the internal monologue that we are allowing to play over and over again that's making us feel like a failure in our lives. And even though we may not be saying it to anyone else, that internal monologue is still playing 24/7 and it's making us feel worse about ourselves. So what is it that actually makes us feel like a failure? Well, believe it or not, it is not the act of failing. That's the biggest thing to remember here. You actually feeling like a failure is not due to the failure itself. It's due to two things. Number one is that you're not meeting your own ideals or expectations. The interesting thing is that you chose that ideal and that expectation for yourself. And when you didn't meet that criteria, you actually started to beat yourself up and feel like a failure. The second way is comparing yourself unfavorably to others. When we look at other people, it's very easy to think that they have it all together, that they know what they're doing, that they are succeeding all the time. The reality is nobody is succeeding all the time. Nobody has it all together, but we seem to think that they do because we don't see their entire life story. The truth is you are the one who is choosing to compare yourself unfavorably to that person. We compare ourselves unfavorably to others, which makes us feel like a failure, and other people compare themselves unfavorably to us. It's just something we do in human nature. It's how the world works. All right, so now we know how we create the feeling of failure for ourselves and how we label ourselves as a failure. What can we do to overcome this feeling of failure, of feeling like a failure in our lives? Well, there's several ways that we can overcome it that I have learned. The first is to understand your needs and how failure fits into those. If you have a look at the hierarchy of needs by Abraham Maslow, you'll see that the different levels really correspond to how we feel failure. For example, the level of love and belonging, if we feel like we don't match up, we haven't reached the level of success that others have, that love and belonging is kind of threatened in some ways because we're not like the people around us. The other level that is threatened by failure is esteem. Achievement and status and recognition are very linked to esteem, and if we haven't achieved the level of success that we think we should, very often we can beat ourselves up and think, well, I'm not measuring up in life. So those two levels of the hierarchy of needs, love and belonging and esteem, are really threatened by failure. The reason that I tell you this is because this model of the hierarchy of needs can actually help you to change your perspective around failure. For example, if you go one level lower on the hierarchy of needs to the level of safety and security, it's very likely that you have those basic needs met in your life. Well, there are a lot of people out there who don't. Taking your life down to the basest level really helps you to see that, hey, maybe I haven't succeeded in every area, maybe I've failed in some respects, but my basic needs of security and survival are still intact, have still been met, and I'm okay. The other way that you can use the hierarchy of needs model is to go up a level, go up to actualization. If you look at your life as a journey of actualization, then not achieving something, not succeeding straight away is a learning experience. Every failure that you have brings you more growth and development. So if you put the frame of self-actualization around your failures, you're actually not failing, you're not a failure because you're growing and developing, you're evolving as a person. Will you still have failures? Yes, you will. But you will feel different about them because you're seeing them as an opportunity for growth. To finish this video today, I want to give you 2 reframing questions that will help you to change your perspective about failure and hopefully to set you back on the path of who you need to be to keep persisting and growing in your life. The first question is, how many times have you actually failed in your life? Write it down. Sit down with a piece of paper and a notepad and list out all the specific failures that you have had in your life. You might be surprised that it's a lot less than you actually feel like it is. When you really think about it, every single failure that you've had wasn't the end of the world. You still survived, you still moved forward. Even if you've had 50 or 100 or a couple of 100 failures in your life, you are still resilient, you are still going despite them, and none of them stopped you. The second question is, did you actually cause the failure? Now, in some instances, you will answer yes. Look at that list of failures and ask yourself, did I actually cause these myself? In some instances, it was something that you did or you said or you didn't do that caused the failure to happen. In other instances, the failure happened as a result of someone else or a circumstance happening to you. The important thing to have as a distinction here is that not everything is in your control. In the instance where you did cause the failure, you have an opportunity for growth and learning. In the instance where you didn't cause the failure, then you can actually just let it go and say, that's just life. Everyone deals with crappy circumstances at some point in their life, and I had my fair share of them as well. My friend, as I said in the beginning in this video, feeling like a failure is a very common scenario. All of us go through it at some stage in our life. The more failures you have, the more real you are as a person. And in a lot of respects, the failures make you into the person you are because they create character. So even if you have had failures in your life, stop labeling yourself as a failure because it's just not reality. Hopefully these ideas are valuable for you. If you like what I'm doing on this channel, please consider liking the video, leaving a comment below, sharing your thoughts, and subscribing to the channel. We'd love to have you as part of our community here. My name is Daniel Midson-Short. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being vulnerable and continuing to grow as a person. And as I always say, thank you for improving yourself.